HTML are the forms. Well, basically, forms make our web pages interactive. An HTML form is a section of a document that collects input from the user. So it's the primary way a website can become interactive, allowing users to send data to the web server. Like you might think of time you have logged in, sign up for a newsletter, write a comment, or purchase a product online that actually you were using a form in those websites. And again, the fundamental purpose of a form is to gather information from the user and bundle it together and send it to the server for processing. Well, this process might be many things, like you might need to save some data, you might need to do query a database, to do some search operations, maybe you want to log in and send your username and passwords and so on. And in a form, well, there are many important form components of a form. Well, there are actions and the methods first, but we will see them in the following chapters. So first we will only focus on how to get data, the components, the HTML components that allows the users to provide input data for our data. And this is first one is this text box. So how do we do it? Well, we can just using this input command, input tag, and then we set the type as a text. So this will give us a one single line to single line that users can provide answers. Like think about when you register a website, then you need to provide your name and so on and so this is some a text box can be useful for that one. And of course the other one is the password. So in the password, basically especially when we log in, we type the password, but we don't want we don't want other people to see what we have typed. So whenever we type, it shows this kind of a masked output. And if you need multiple lines, not a single line as the text box, then you can use the text area. And the hidden part, well, hidden is basically we provide a text field, but it is actually hidden, which means that the users are not able to see that. And so they cannot actually provide any input for those, but the reason is that we might need to put some data in the hidden parts, and then we want to send it to the server. Let's say you want to log in, and in our website probably you want to provide the when you created your account, so you need the current date of the data, or maybe the location of the user, like where are they logging in from to your website. So they enter their name and the last and then the password, whatever it is. And then, well, you also need their location. Let's say you don't want to ask user to say, okay, where are you now? Well, because from the IP you can already know it, like where are they are in Doha, in Qatar, whatever place. So but that information should be sent to the server. How can we do it? Well, by using this kind of a hidden types inputs, you can send this kind of data to the server also. Now let's do some examples for that one. So what I'll do is I'll make a copy paste of these codes actually, and then I'll go to this W3 Schools Trade website and I'll paste it here, and then I'll just run the code to see what we will get here. Let me get rid of this advertisements. Here is the output. So the content of the body element is displayed here. So this is that part. Of course, we can put all these in the body, but I want to put here one blank line so that this text will just will be here, not immediately next to this text. Okay, now this is the text part. Now this is, let me write it here. This is the text field. This is the password part. Whatever I type, it will show me like this. This is the text area. As you can see that like we can define how many rows, like 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. Well, we can still scroll down and then it allows much more lines, but this is just the initial number of rows, and how many columns, which is the width of our text area. And hidden, as again, well, it is hidden, so that's why we don't see it here. I'll go back to my slides, and of course there are much more other data types. Like we can just try and see, like so every time I'll just copy paste it here, and then I'll come back here. Now just I don't want to put everything here, so I'll just remove them. This is the search area part, like, and you see that it allows me to delete. Usually this is used for the search box, for the number. Every time I just need to change number. I don't need to copy paste everything again and again, to be honest. So the difference is now it will allow you to enter numbers by this increasing and decreasing buttons. And also, well, of course you can also type numbers in it. The thing is, if you try to write some letters, now I'm hitting letters or non-numeric letters, it doesn't allow me. The only difference is very interesting, that if you hit E, it will do it. Well, that sounds interesting. So it doesn't allow F, G, or other letters, but allows E. Why is that? Well, it's because, well, how do you write 0.04, for instance, in a scientific notation? Well, you can literally write it with E notation. So actually it had, in scientific notation, E is allowed. That's why it is allowed. And of course this is for Chrome. If you are using a Safari, for instance, you'll see that it also allows letters to type in a number format, but the difference is that it still sets it to invalid, so you will not be able to submit it. So you can type it in Safari, but you cannot submit it in Chrome and this browser. So you are not even allowed to type letters. So let's proceed with our other format, which is range. So I'll just again make it range, and then we'll run it. It gives you this kind of a visual. So what is this? Well, again, it allows you to pick a numbers. Well, when you just give range, this of course it doesn't mean like what is the value it provides. Well, you can provide some numbers actually, like what is mean value. So when we set it, it means it will be 0, and its maximum will be 100, and each step will be 1, and so on. And the default will be 50. If you make it, let's say 90, for instance, it should appear somewhere around here. Let's run it. So this is the default value, so that you allow user to more visually enhanced way of providing data. And also you force users, the most important part is that you force them to provide only numbers, so they cannot provide any invalid data by doing this. And the next part is like, how can we ask user to provide some color? Well, basically you can use this color version, and then when you run it, here it is. Let's delete this range, not to confuse all. So let's run it again, and when you click it, then you allow user to pick any color, as you can see here. And for the tell, what is tell? Well, it's for the telephone number. So when you do it, well, again, so it has a very loosely requirement, so you can still type in letters. The reason, and numbers also, you can type anything, of course. Well, one idea here is that because the telephone numbers can be anything, can be very different from one country to another one. Well, the main advantage of this tell is actually to show the browser what our intention. So it's not any text, but we just want to do it for a telephone number. So why is it good? Well, especially for most of the smartphones and or smartphones. So when you use a tab, the web browser automatically opens the number paths instead of the ladders. Of course, on a keyboard, it's not useful, but it is especially useful for the smartphones. And also similar for the URL and for the email. Like let's try also the email, for instance. So if you do the email part, and then let's run it. And then when you type here, again, it has a very limited uh, requirements. So if you want to force users to provide email, we'll see that we need to provide patterns. And for the date is, again, we ask user to provide a date, and then again you can allow them to select date by using this kind of a calendar style. And we have also all the others, month, week, time, and so on. Now the other part is the selections. So the selection is for to provide a list of predefined items so that the users can select some among those. So we will see these parts now. First one is this the drop down list, in which now we use this select keyword, as you can see here, and now we finish it. It has a content in it. We have this name and ID. So what was it again? Let's remember. Name is for the back end, ID is for the front end part. So when we are using CSS or the JavaScript, we want to somehow align this tag with our JavaScript code or CSS. We will use this ID part, but this name part is for the back end part. And now for this select option, we add options by using these option tags, in which we have the value, which means this is the data that we will send to the server, and this backcolor of arts is what the user will see here. Similarly, BS, the value that we will send to the server, and backcolor of size is to the what the user see. And well, you might ask, why do we have this kind of a difference? Well, because I don't want to send unnecessary data to the server, because if BS stands for Bachelor of Science, and I know that it means Bachelor of Science, then I don't need to send this number of letters to the server. Instead, just 2 letters would be enough for me. And for the one, if you want to say, okay, this is for to make one of them is the selected by default, this is selected, then you should go with this. You can set this selected attribute, and this will be the default with that example. So here is our select option with the name, degree, and ID degree. Here we have, as you can see, we have these 3 options here. Click this arrow. Let's run again. Yeah. And as you can see that the master of computing is selected. Now going back to the other option, which is a multi-selection list. So here we have some a very large code. Let's break it down for you. So I will just copy paste it here, and I will put it here, and then I will just run it, and I will go over that. Now we have a label tag. So what is this? The content is this occupation, as you can see here, but here we have this for occupation. What does it mean? Well, it means that this label is for input tag that has the ID occupation. So this matches with this one, so this label is for this select input format. So then why is it good? Well, first, when you click, so it creates a link between this label and this option. So when I click this occupation, it will automatically, as you can see, it will automatically select this list. So to better understand it, maybe we can do one more part. Let's copy paste this part, and then let's put it also here. Okay, now I have this, I have, for instance, select this one. I want to move to this part, so I click this occupation. As you can see that now this is selected, so it increases its area to be selected. And also, more importantly, well, when you are designing a web page, you have to think all people. And for people who are visually impaired, who are not able to see your web page, they use some special tools which basically only reads loudly the content so that they can understand what this page is for. So when you make this connection, so because of this link, those tools first said, okay, there's an input link and it is for occupation, and you have to tell them, these users, that what is this input form is for. So this, by having these tools say that in this example it's for occupation, so that the visually impaired users will also know that, okay, when they select something, it will be to show their occupation. Then let's go to this select option again. Now this ID for the front end, this name is for the server side. So what it means is, when we select this, let's say developer, and then when we submit the data, the server will get this information. Occupation is the developer. So it will allow us the data type that we receive on the server side. And what is multiple? Well, multiple means if you hit command, if you are a Mac user, or control if you are a Windows user, basically you can select multiple options. And this size means size 543 means how many items you want to show by default. So if we set it to 3, only 3 items will be shown. If you make it 6, then 6 items will be shown by default. But of course, if there are more, you can always scroll down and so on. And then, well, we would like to make a grouping for our occupations, like we have technical and non-technical occupations. So that's why we use this OPT group. An OPT group, and it is the technical one, as you can see here. And then we will add those two cases, developer and the web designer. And the value that we want to send to the server is this developer and the designer. And our option group is this non-technical. We have these two other options and so on. So this is again to select the data for the this is to allow users to submit data through these options. Now let's go to the radio button and the checkbox button. First, what is the difference between radio button and the checkbox button? In a radio button, well, we would like to force users to select only one of those. So they cannot be both male and female. That would sound pretty weird. So they should be select only one of them. How can we do it? Well, for this, so that's why we need a radio button. But if we had done a checkbox, then it would allow them to select multiple options together. So that's why for this case we need radio button. And for this radio button again, well, what we'll have is this type is radio, and then the ID is male, name is gender. So for the front end, for the server name, we have the name there, we have the name gender, and then value is male. And then this is the content. And then for the other part is, again, we will have one more part for the female part. And well, this checked version is that it's by default it will be checked. Radio button example on our browser. So again, as you can see that when we select these two cases, only one of them is selected. Well, you might ask, okay, how is this possible? Like, which part allows that these two will be grouped? Well, it will be based on this name part. So we use the same name for both. That's why only one of them is selected. Like if you, let's say, change this to different. So now this is GN, this is gender. So when we run it now, it will allow us to select both. So when you are grouping, you should pay attention to this name option. And when we go back to other example, which is the checkbox part, now it's very similar, but now the type changes to checkbox, and then we again, whatever we want to be selected first, we put the checked. By default will be checked. And let's also run this code. So let me first copy paste this code from my previously written part. So I will go back to my code part again. I will copy paste this part, and then I will run the code. Now, as you can see, now we can run multiple options. We can select multiple of them, and this send me a newsletter is the by default selected one. You might wonder why we have these labels. Well, it's basically, again, it links this input by this checkbox. So if you click not only here but on this label part, it will automatically select it, so it will make it easier to run. And you might wonder, why do we have these BRs? Well, if you don't put it, it will put them next to each other. That wouldn't look very nice, so that's why it might be a good idea if you want them to put in a vertical order. That will be useful to put those BR comments. So now in all our these inputs, we have seen many different attributes, like we can set those them checked, we can allow multiple of them to be selected. By default, some of them is selected. What is the number of rows and the columns in the text area? And there are others, like we can make them read only, we can make them disabled, and so on. So these attributes are also important to configure our input form. The buttons that sends the data that we have, that the user enters into the form to the server. So well, there are a couple button types. The first one is a reset one. Well, basically it sets inputs to their original value. So if it is in the beginning, if it is empty, it will set it to empty. If it is if it has a default value, it will then set it to default value. And the reset button, I have to say also, is that it's not very recommended, because like, think about that, you are filling a form and you already filled many things, and then you accidentally hit the reset button, then everything will be gone. So when if you really want to put a reset button, you should also think this aspect. And the submit, basically to send the data to send the data to the server. Button, well, it's a generic button. Basically it doesn't do anything by itself, but you can set what it does by using some JavaScript code that we will see in the following lectures. And the image button, well, you can literally put an image instead of a text on that button, and it also does a submit operation. And you can also provide an alternative text for this button. Now let's also do this code on our server, on our code. So this is again the input, the type is reset, the value is reset. Basically, let's run this code first. See, well, you can say, for instance, clear me, and then it will be like the name that appears on the button again. So for this value part again is submit data, for instance, just the text that appears on the button. And this is again the generic data type button, and this is a type of image, again to submit the data. It's also useful when the image is not loaded, so that this will be shown to the users, so that if there's a problem with the image, there's some text still useful for the users. And in image data, well, one interesting part is when you click it, the coordinates that on the image that you clicked is also sent to the server. Well, we can use labels that we explained in the previous slides, and the other one is the field sets. Well, it is basically to group some input fields, like for instance you ask first name, last name, email, and then you might want to say, okay, this is are all contact information, and you can optionally label the group, label these input formats. So what is the advantage of it? Well, first, it separates, you group the input fields, you can see that it draws rectangle between them, and you can put a title, so you might think that it might make it more stylistic. It is, considering from a div tag, it is more specialized, so it and also by giving these legends, it will be also better for the screen reader, so that once they read this label, it will also provide users more information about what this fields are for. For example, I copy pasted this code to our browser. So let's look at this part. So we can use field set is our tag word, and then in between we can still use the label for each text field, for input field we have, and once we run it, this is what we will get. As you can see that it draws a rectangle, but you see that it doesn't have any label on it. For that one, we have to type legend, and then we might say this is like login, so we can now close this legend tag and so on, so that this will now put a label. And also we can the good thing with this field set is that you can also do some setting on those, and then it will make all the fields in between, like for instance disabled, so it is also useful from that kind of a functionality perspective. Now regarding the input fields, now we'll see some other parts. The first one is the input placeholder. So what is this part? Let's go back to our code. Now first, for the field set, of course, well, this will still random, but if you want to send the data, of course we need to put those within a form field, so that will be within a form tag, so that we can send the data. And within that also, maybe, okay, let's say you want to put a placeholder. Let me delete this part actually to make things not confused. So what is this part? Well, when I run this code, now I'll get this part. As you can see that you see this full name. So what is this for? Well, this placeholder is basically used to tell users what this field is for. When we start typing, that part will immediately disappear. So if you want to give users some hint about what type of data that you are expecting, you can use this placeholder attribute. And then the other one is the required one. So what is this part? Well, when we say that required, it means that when we are trying to submit this data, we need it cannot be empty. So for that one, let's put also button here, a submit button here. Okay, then once now this is empty, when we hit the submit, as you can see that we are getting this kind of an error message. So we have to fill something, then we will be able to submit that autofocus parameter, which means that when the page is loaded, that input field will be active, which means that you don't need to click it. Once you start typing, that field will be filled. So to show this example, well, the W3 Schools browser will not work for that one, so I have to create another web page. So here is our web page. Let's see, we have this form field, and then we have one input and then the other one in which we put this autofocus part. So the second one will have this autofocus part, and then we have some buttons, but actually this part is the important one. Now when we go to this web page, and when we refresh this web page, what you notice is that the second one has a different color because it's the active one, it's the blue, and when we start typing, it will immediately fill that part. So autofocus is basically to set the field that will be by default will be selected once the page is loaded. The other one is the pattern. So what is this for? Well, it is basically to force users to provide only a specific input. So for this one again, I will go to now this part and I would like to copy paste it here. And you see this part because of the copy paste issue, there's a problem with these double quotes. That's why we are now seeing those parts. And do it in this way, and there's one more code that we have to update. Yes, when we run this code now, what this is saying is the input that we put here should match with the pattern that we provided. What does it say is, well, the input can be or any lowercase letter, any uppercase letter, or any numbers, and it should be at least one of those parts. So I can type any letter here. We need to run it again as, and then yeah, we can type it here, and then we can submit. But if you put some content that doesn't match with our pattern, then once we hit the submit, we will see that message. And once you see that, it says letters and numbers on the place, which is the title that we provided here. So you can put here a message also to say that, okay, we want these, what you are required to do it. Like if you want to say that, okay, of course you can play with this pattern. You might say, okay, I just need only numbers. Then you can just change the patterns, and then, well, what will happen is, of course, we need to run it again. And when we provide even letters, now we'll get still an error. Of course, now we should also update our title, because now we'll say that it should be numbers only. And so that we are forcing users, restricting them to for a particular input format. And in the previous slides we had seen these attributes, so that's why I'm passing those. And the last one that we will see is this part. Again, I will just make a copy paste of it, and I will go to our part, and I will submit it. I will copy paste it again. I unfortunately, because of the, well, whenever you are doing some copy paste operation, well, you have to always, you might get into these kind of problems because of the codes are pasted differently. That's why I was getting this here, so I had to change them. So here is what we have. So we have an input, which is a type text, but it has, so we can type anything in that. Let me run here. And then when we but we provide a list, a predefined list, so not anything they can type, but the ones that we provide by using this data list tag, in which we have this two, professor and master. What is the goal of it? Well, think of that like the website is asking you your country, your origin country, and then there's a very long list. It will be very hard to find it, but what you can do is, once we type, if it it, type, it can be like a search option. So in our example, for instance, we have these two options, professors and the master. But once I start typing, of course I need to do it here. When I say MA, then it eliminates professor, because only the option is the master. So basically it does the search operation so that I don't need to find my data within that list, as I can type it. And I also don't need to type all of them, because once I start typing, it will show me what might be, and then I can just select it from that list. And well, that's it for our HTML page. Here are some more references for you to study. Thank you for listening.